we didn't say who would start. Hey, welcome. I forgot our name. What are we called? That was called Us Only Friends.
Welcome to another episode of Not Another BL Podcast. Hello.
We're talking about the final episode of Only Friends.
Yes.
Oh.
12. Episode 12.
Episode 12.
Episode 12.
We have sincerely somebody here with us today.
So hello,
Hi.
sincerely.
Why'd you just point off into the corner as if I was in that corner? You're just
Well,
like off in the
unless you
nowhere.
are in that corner.
On my screen, you're in that corner.
Oh, you're in that
no.
corner on my screen.
No, I'm in the other corner. I'm next to you. Yeah.
You're above me. I don't care.
I'm off in the stratosphere.
Welcome, sincerely.
Okay.
Hello.
Do we have to recap?
At this point,
I want to
no.
be mindful of sincerely's time, so let's
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
yeah.
People, I think people
I
know
just
what happened.
realized your lemon has a lighter. Has it always had a lighter?
Yeah.
It's an arson lemon.
I love it so
Arson.
much.
It's committing arson.
I approve.
Do you sincerely want to start with your thoughts? We
Oh,
can
we don't
start
know your
from the
thoughts.
opening.
Yeah, let's start.
the pool
I have
scene.
been off socials, so I don't know any of my friends' thoughts except for the ones that
I
have
would just
ranted to
like,
me.
yeah.
I aggressively posted 8 videos about this episode. So
Yeah, I stayed off of TikTok because I was
What is
afraid
your
to see things.
I would like your overall opinion because, like, I know their overall opinion of the episode.
I was disappointed. I was very disappointed. And like there's a lot of reasons for it. I think we went really well for 10 episodes. I think we
Yes.
did really well,
Yep.
like really great.
Yeah.
There was so much potential.
Yep.
And then it nosedived. And I was like, it literally did the exact thing I said maybe 80 times. Please don't do this to this show.
Yep.
And then it did it. And everybody was like, dang, it did suck when that happened. And I was like, I know, I've been saying it for 11 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there was stuff that like wasn't the best, or like maybe a plot hole, or it could have been improved, that would have been like just a small thing if these last, I want to say like almost 2 episodes or so, hadn't been done the way they were done.
Yeah.
But because they ended up being done this way, I'm like, no, fuck it. I'm dragging up all the other bullshit and I'm gonna bring it out.
I let some things go. I did let some things go because I was like, you know what? Overall, I feel like we're finally doing something that's like new and fresh in the BL industry. And then they ruined it. They destroyed it. I was like, you literally had the perfect opportunity to finally be something new and fresh. And you dropped the ball. You really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I made several ranting TikToks, and then the last one was like, okay, at the end of the day, regardless of this, it is still better than most of what we get. The way it was filmed was beautifully done. The acting was top notch. A lot of the writing was good. It just wasn't consistently good. And a lot of the direction was good. It just wasn't consistently good. So we're like 3/4 of the way to where we could be. And I still believe we could get there. Maybe GMM isn't the place to do it, but I'm excited they even tried, because 2 years ago, they never would have touched a show like this. So I don't want to trash it too much because I want other opportunities, and they're watching everything we do. We know this now.
Yeah. I think they should hire me. They should hire me. Because it's like, my thing is, the way I approach shows is I critique it in the way that I think a lot of people think critiquing, they take it as trashing nowadays. And I think the important part of critiquing this show is keeping it to the ways it could be improved. And like a lot of what I dive into is cinematography, storyline, and kind of how the industry has become kind of a downfall for art. It's almost started killing artistry in a lot of ways. And I say it in a very overarching thing, but I think that fan shipping and the like toxic side of fan shipping has really killed the art. It's like I go into it for shows, and I'm not really much of a ship person. So when I go into BL, I'm looking at characters, shows, cinematography, and writing. And just everything lately has gotten so consistently writing to fulfill fan needs that I call it the 12th episode Sparkles and Bows curse, because you'll have 11 episodes and then it will suddenly be different. Like that 12th episode drops the ball because it needs to fit into essentially making everybody okay. And I think this show kind of showed us that, because I'm sorry, but there's a reason they made Neo, Mark, Boston, and Nick, because they needed to have an unestablished ship be the ship that they could be like, yeah, we don't always have everybody get together in the end, because they're not an established ship. And I'm like, I just kind of wish that we could step out of it.
And I think one of the issues that I have with this is like a writing decision just for the characters, or maybe not writing, maybe it was like an editing or directing decision for the end. But we could have had all of the couple that we could have had the same outcome for the couples at the end with still better storylines.
Oh,
That-
yeah.
So like we still could have had Ray and Sand together. We still could have had Top and Mew, and Boston and it could be going their separate ways, and we could have had better storylines that got them there.
Yeah, because I tend to go for this particular, not all, but this one, I feel like people, whoever the main characters are that are supposed to get together, whether there's a BL ship or not. They do it in het shows too. They do it in Western media. It's always, it is the majority of specifically series like this that are tied around romance. The couple gets together in the end. So I'm not totally tied to that. And then with this one, Top and Mew are real people who get married at the end of the day. So I feel like they were going to be together in the end, period. There's the only reason I don't like hold on to it for this particular series. And I think Ray and Sand are real people too. I think they said, I know Top and Mew are, and I know Top and Mew are married.
Yeah, Ray and Sand aren't real. Boston, Nick, and Top Mew, I think, are real.
Okay. So like I don't 100%, I feel like they were going to be together no matter what. But and I had this conversation with Laura because she said the same thing. And I was like, well, she strictly said GMM TV the ending. And I said, when you say that, what does that mean? And she said, tie it up in a bow. To me, that's not the same thing as the couple stay together as tying it up in a bow. And I think that's what Shannon was saying.
Everything got tied up in a bow. And
yeah,
I think
everything gets tied in a bow. Everything got glossed over.
Yeah.
That I understand better.
I made a video about it where I was like, I think I would have been more comfortable. And I think the reason Nick was one of my favorite characters in this episode is I think they didn't need the ending scene. I don't think we needed that end credit. I think that end credit kind of came in there. Oh, so they did the perfect ending to me, and not even perfect, but the more reasonable and the one that hit and really felt like it gave the feeling and the like kind of lingering feeling of this show was the ending that they had where it was Sand and Ray in the car and it pans out. And we don't know where everything's going to go. We don't know the ending. And then when they came in with that end credit scene where it's just everybody standing in the hostel being like, yeah, Ray's like stopping his drinking. Oh, Namjoon and April are all happy. But Nick wasn't there. And I think that's why Nick's ending made so much more sense to me, because it just logically fit. It was like he basically said, I'm going to go fix myself. And then he left. We don't know if he fixed himself. We don't know the true ending. And I think that's what we needed. And then I also I love Mix, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we needed that cameo. I think that cameo is just there as a shocker moment. And I really, a lot of people,
season 2.
Yeah.
I 100% think they're going to do a season 2.
They put it up on their social media and said February 2024.
Yeah.
But I mean, the February 2024 was in the show.
For what?
Yeah. It was,
was
a clip.
That was what that was. Oh my God.
That's what I was trying to tell you. I was like, that's a clip in the show.
I was like, it was a fast flash forward to February 2024.
I was like,
the clip.
I still think they're going to do. They've been doing weird hints about it. There's I could be wrong, but the fact that JoJo and all of those actors didn't have a show in part 1 is another reason why everyone keeps forgetting there's a part 2. And JoJo legit was like, my show's coming in part 2. None of those actors seem stressed about having something coming. I think there's going to be.
I think it's a maybe. But also GMMTV has done this like 4 times now, where they throw somebody in the last literal like 2 minutes of a show.
They have. You're right.
And I'm like, why are we doing this? Because this is a spoiler, and I don't think all of you have watched the show. Do you guys care about Homeschool?
I don't know if the people listening might care though.
Yeah.
People listening, skip forward 20 seconds. Homeschool has this same thing where somebody jumps in the last few minutes, and it's literally that. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, I feel like they're kind of just doing cameos to get engagement, because it's the stuff that gets posted on social medias. It's like, oh my God, did you see that?
And
part of me, oh, sorry, go ahead, Shannon.
I was saying, well, if we listen to like the interview from the CEO and they are basing a lot of stuff off of engagement and the likes and all this stuff, maybe what's determining the season 2 is people's responses.
I think it is. I think it's possible. I think it's very, very possible. The other thing I was going to say, the thing that could save them from all the couples are just happy in the end, is because Mix was definitely going to cause problems between Mew and Top. So it's clear that their picture perfect ending isn't that picture perfect.
This is okay. Mew and Top might be the most frustrating couple for me, because they're just
there.
I don't like Mew. And a lot of people did not like me saying that. I don't know if I've been clear about it before. And I was clear this time on TikTok, and I got a lot of, what do you mean? Well, he's my favorite character. I don't understand why you don't like him. And I'm like, oh, do I have to explain this?
I like, what is frustrating for me with Top and Mew is that we've said this in a previous episode of this, the BL couple. They are the BL couple in this show, and they do stuff like that. And so they have that more tropey storyline. They have all this stuff. And then we had like Ray and Sand, who were just destroying you with like the reality of addiction and like loving someone through this time and all this kind of stuff. And it was, I struggle with Ray as a character, but that was one of the best storylines I have seen in a show surrounding these two characters. Like,
yeah.
And it was phenomenal. And then what? That was the fucking ending. Okay, sorry. That was the ending. And
the ending was lackluster for the best storyline in the show. It was I will say it straightforward. It was the best storyline. And they had so much potential with that couple to explore things we've never explored. And all we got was one scene of therapy. And then it was like magically falling in love made him not an addict anymore. I hated that. I don't like the idea that falling in love made him not an alcoholic. Like, I changed myself slowly because I fell in love with you. That's not how life is, guys. I'm sorry.
That twice in the show. They did that twice in the show, where love fixed an addiction.
Top and Mew.
The fire was so unnecessary.
But it was to show that love fixed his anxiety, and he didn't need pills because he got Mew now.
I literally DM'd somebody and I was like, it was a failed attempt at a cinematography move of a tie back. It was a very poorly put together tie back because they wanted it to be look, Mew, now that he has Mew has healed him. Mew has fixed him. And I'm like, the man has PTSD. Him having him experiencing another smoky potential fire just because Mew's next to him is not going to cure his PTSD of fires. Like,
he had zero reaction to that fire.
Yep.
He was just a fire. Come, let's go. Let me handle this. And I'm just like, you couldn't sleep 2 weeks ago. And you're just like,
Yeah. Let me talk to you.
I had to explain to a lot of people why that scene even happened, because they couldn't understand why the fire randomly started. And I was like, well, it was a tie back. But the problem is everybody forgot that was why he was taking the pills in the first place.
Yes. Yes, because it was so kind of backsided that I think a lot of people forgot it existed, because they've thrown so many things in here. But they threw
about me.
I did.
I had
But I can't be mad at that because they threw so much in there that was left untethered. Like,
yeah, no, I 100% agree. I was just
Sam's
I had to explain it because it was so poorly
yeah, they didn't make a big
deal. A reminder thing. It wasn't like I only do this because of the trauma. Like he didn't even mention that one more time.
No, it was just like that one time.
The one time. And then
they threw so much in there that why? Like we got no tie rounds to Sam's dad. He just was there.
Nope.
And I'm like, he's still just there. Like Buddy's still saxophoning off in the corner. Like he's gonna join a jazz band or something. What's he gonna do?
You talk totally. Honestly, it was very disappointing because like Sand and Ray, as we said, was the best storyline that we've seen in ages in a BL. And then they did that. And then I feel personally like I just want Neo and Mark to win awards because apparently their storyline was supposed to be a lot boring. And those two just knocked that shit out of the park. They added so much to that storyline that wasn't there.
Yeah. They made Boston so one-dimensional in terms of the writing that Neo is the only reason that he was any form of interesting in that show.
And I think Nick as well. Because the way Nick is written, he's just meant to be a victim to Boston. And Mark made Nick an absolute psycho. Okay? Just the weirdest fucking person ever. To where I was like, okay, you freak. I like you. You're weird as hell. And then you got to see him say and be like, no, I'm not going to be this pitiful person. And he did it multiple times and he got himself out of this stuff. And Mark really made Nick a fantastic character. And the same with Boston with Neo. And I'm like, they weren't written that way. They were just supposed to be this victim and the villain.
So I said on the live last night, sincerely, this was another Buffy the Vampire Slayer Spike situation. We were never supposed to like Boston. We were never supposed to be interested in Boston. Boston was just supposed to be a throwaway villain. And the actor was so good at it that we locked on. And they wrote in that lie was the assault. The assault that Spike did was the lie they threw in last minute for Boston to just drive home. You're not supposed to like him. See, he's bad.
I've never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, I've ruined it.
Technically, you haven't ruined it, but yes.
I was like, well,
it's a reference you don't understand if you don't.
I was like, I guess.
It is. There was a character there that was supposed to be hated, written to be hated, and the fans rallied behind him for season after season.
Because he grew. We literally watched this character grow. They wrote growth. And then what they did, they taught, and they were like, because he's a bad guy. And I'm like, fuck all of you. You made him better. And that's what they did to Boston.
Yep. Well, but the way that they wrote that growth, the turnaround on it was what made it so out of character. Because like, we see him establish the idea of boyfriends in this whole show. He's established relationships and he knows them to a T. So when he establishes boyfriends, you don't expect that to happen. And you don't think he will because he has been very straightforward and he follows the line. And so when he doesn't follow the line, I'm like, okay, did we just do this to add a little extra drama before like ending that? Because
so it's guess what actually happened, which Heatherly also was updating me on. Listen, this is what happened, was that from what it looks like, if you go back and you look, although we didn't get to see these conversations, is that it looks like Nick agreed to be in an open relationship where he's the boyfriend and Boston can still like do some side stuff. And then that is why Boston goes and makes out with Boeing, because it's like, it's okay technically because they have an agreement. And then Nick says, I thought I was okay with it, but then when I actually saw like what I was supposed to be okay with, I'm not. And this is the frustrating thing, because I'm like, they have had an open relationship throughout this entire show. And not once has Boston done that to Nick when he wasn't his boyfriend. And they've gone out places together. Yeah.
And also the way that it was done, like, I'm going to go get him a drink. What?
And then lie to him.
Yeah.
He came back and said, I was in the bathroom.
I'm sorry.
I was like, why did you have to lie? If it was an actual open relationship, there was no reason to lie.
Yeah. And with a fucking Negroni? how dare they? How dare they do this to Negronis? Okay, because I am a no.
On the alcohol.
I think there was a sense of self-awareness there that they knew they had not made us hate him in the way that they needed to. And so you froze, Shannon. They wrote him in, they wrote the scene in a way that it was kind of hard to follow, that you weren't quite sure what was going on or what agreements had been made. Why was he lying? And either way, in the end, you were very angry with what had happened. And you should not have to go back to clarify what that was. And we should have had the open relationship conversation in the scene. Why the hell didn't we have that? Like, they purposely set it up for us to be confused and be upset because they needed Boston to be a villain.
Yeah.
And they realized being slutty is not actually a villain to most people.
That was frustrating. And I also this is probably Boston's acting, but was it when he broke down and like after he is accused of like falsely accused of rape and coercion and all this stuff, and he breaks right, and he breaks down in front of Nick and is just like, why do I do this? Why do I do this to the people I love? And then when Nick is crying and he's crying and he just like tells Nick like, I missed you. Why the fuck did we have any of these scenes? If that was not how he was supposed to be portrayed, tell Boston not Neo not to act the scene that way. Because
why is that scene there?
That
If bad is just bad and you
even
don't
if he was
deserve
a bad actor.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Heatherly.
Oh, I was just gonna say, even if he was a bad actor, that scene being there at all doesn't make sense.
It's dumb. If you're telling me no backstory and sorry, go ahead, Sincerely.
You're literally setting the actor up for failure.
Yes.
Because it's like you're putting in scenes that are not to the character and you're being like, oh, go with it. And it's like, eh. But I think that's another downfall of having 3 couples in one show. It's like it's possible if done right and not without losing the path. And I think the issue, and I think they had talked about how they do edit every episode. And I think there was clarification that they said it was because of
I'm not sure.
But
Shannon trusts nothing at this point.
I trust fucking zero.
Well, I trust nothing. And I do believe that a lot gets edited by fan reaction and for engagement things. I think that I don't know if we're going to get a season 2. If we do, cool. If not, I think they threw Mix in there as that moment that everybody's going to share all over social media to get people involved, because it will. It's a marketing tactic. If anybody knows, I'm in marketing and PR. That's my specialty and my degree. It's a total marketing tactic. Put one of your big name actors in and be like, hey, look at this moment. And he's hot in it. It's just so disappointing. And like, I'm not. Go.
Oh, I was saying it was so disappointing that I wasn't even excited when Mix showed up.
No.
I was only excited because Mix looked really, really good.
Yeah.
I wasn't excited about him being there. I was excited about seeing him. That was 2 very different things.
I was excited the minute that after like ending scene started. I was like, you really just took a good cinematic ending that leaves you feeling. It leaves you with lingering emotion, and then you screwed it up. Like, why did you do it? And I'm not going to say the whole show's bad, because I think there's a lot of it that was great. Yeah. And there's a lot, like there's conversations that started that I think needed to happen. Mm-hmm. And it started as a step, and I'm really hoping it's a stepping stone in the community for like what I was saying, new, fresh shows, new BLs. Like I almost want a Moonlight Chicken meets Only Friends type of show. Like Only Friends, if it were done with the Moonlight Chicken style and flow and storytelling, would be out of this world.
I really did. Like, I really liked this show. Everything. There were a few things that stunted a few things for me. And it was the realization that when we realized, we're like, wow, we're pretty sure that they think they wrote Mew as a good person. Like, this is what a good person looks like. And I was like, that's not a good person. And then the realization of like, oh, you literally just want Boston to be a villain. So like this can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So those stunted, like, I think because those decisions got made, and then no one decided to break away from it after seeing like what the actors had pulled forward, everything else. To me, it actually damages some of the past. Like I think it's a really good show. They had phenomenal acting, writing, directing, cinematography, all these things. But I think because people could not let go of Boston being this villain and not being redeemed, although I don't know what the fuck he was supposed to be redeemed from. Like, what was this man not supposed to have a redemption arc from?
So I was told in one of my comments, it is in line because all he did was lie all the time. And he's a cheater. And I was like, I'm confused.
When did
and
he
I
lie?
really, outside of Top, I don't know what else he did. He
And he didn't cheat.
He didn't cheat.
He definitely didn't.
Top cheated, sort of, because
Like,
even
the
Mew
Top
was
thing-
like
I think the
being
manipulation of it was bad. I will say the manipulation
Oh, yeah.
of it and
Oh yeah,
was
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
That is what he does deserve, like, repentance of. He needs to go and
Yeah.
apologize for that one. But when we got to the scene where it was like apologize to everyone, I was like, okay, guys, let's have a moment where we all look in the mirror because all of you have done some pretty bad stuff. Like, come on, guys.
Talk about the Mew of it all. So there are 2 points in this series majorly, and they're Boston related, where Mew makes me that Mew makes me like seethe. And I had multiple people be like, how can you not like Mew? I like Mew's the best thing about this show. And I'm just like, no. But the first one is when Top and Boston have their dalliance or whatever. Not good, shouldn't have happened, bad thing. And Mew goes all lemonade Beyonce and is like, just burn the world down. Fine. Totally fine.
I loved it.
Totally fine with that. Like, do you do? But the weight of what he did specifically to Boston versus Top, very different. And then what he did to Boston was so gross to me because he went so far to the point of manipulating Nick into believing what Nick did was okay. When later on, Nick says, you know what I did was not okay. I'm just as nasty as you. So we cannot pretend that what Nick did was okay. But he used that he manipulated Nick, said, maybe it's not so bad. So he could get the recording so that he could then go into this man's home, to his father, to threaten his political career and threaten Boston's already tenuous relationship with his father, to the point where he had Boston groveling on his knees, only to say to him, I wouldn't actually do it because I'm better than you.
And he was threatening to out him to the world.
I will say, one of the best things I did with this show is hate every single character.
Agreed.
So much that I was able to love hating them. So when Mew did that, I knew how bad it was, but I also was like, I kind of like the psychoticness of this.
It's fine if you like the but I have people telling me he's a good soul. And so that's where I'm going. So then at this last one, I see when he got Boston to apologize to him, hugged him. Let's hug it out, bro. We're good. Just do better. Just do better. And then Boston comes to New Year's Eve and Boston's like, all right, I did my penance. We're all talking. Y'all let me come to this party. Let's do it again sometime. And Mew is the cattiest, rudest, nastiest thing. And he's like, I don't really think I need to be friends with you. And then he leaves. This is your good person?
Yeah.
This is your kind soul? That was so unnecessary. Like, just cut off the friendship. You don't want to be friends with him. You don't like him. Just be done. Just be done. Why did you do that to him?
Yeah.
It's so mean. It is mean in a gross and very calculating way.
Yeah, and on top of it, I think CJ had said before that like Mew is very emotionally manipulative to the point where people won't even believe you when you say this about him. Like if Boston were to tell anyone that like Mew is a horrible person and he's done horrible things to him, people would be like, no, he's the kind like Like Mew literally in front of so many people was like, hey, do you want to come see fireworks with us? And Boston said, are you just being nice? Do you actually want me there? Because the man knew. He was like, maybe you're not comfortable with me. That's fine. And then Mew is like, don't ask questions, just like come along. So he goes along. And then that is when when they're off in this more private location, when Choom and April don't know what's happening, that's when he's like, I don't want to be your friend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what?
And then later, sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say, then later in his little thing with Top, he goes, do you think I'm being too hard on him? Like, fuck you, Mew. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Was that too hard on him? What are you doing, dude? Like, pick a lane. Be who you are.
But he's so consistently that person from episode 1. He's the, oh, I did this insane thing. Oh no, is it like I'm actually like small and sweet? And it's like, what the fuck? We all just saw that.
I think the interesting thing about this show is how palatable manipulation was for people dependent on the person doing it. Because like what I always say, I made a lot of videos about, I made a lot of videos that made people really mad because I essentially sat there reading everyone to filth because I was like, I hate all of them. I really don't like any of them. And it's not in a bad way. It's like, I love the mess of it. But the amount of people that refused to see, because like it started getting to a point, and maybe it was just my side of the internet, where people were starting to see like Mew and Top and Boston and Nick's problem. Nobody was willing to ever admit the manipulation going on between Sand and Ray. And Sand especially, because the thing is with Ray, there was like the rage of people just being like, yeah, but he's hurt, but also he is like manipulative. People thought Sand, and I don't understand how this happened. They went all the way to the end of the show thinking Sand was like this angel baby. Like he never did anything wrong in their eyes. And I was like, guys, am I watching the same like character? Are you watching the same person? That man is scary. And I still don't even think we got to dive into the real Sand. Like,
Oh, okay.
You're breaking up sincerely.
You're breaking up sincerely. We're all like,
that was me.
No. We all just went like the dog when he came here.
Yeah.
Oh no, sincerely. While we wait for Sincerely to return, I was gonna agree. I remember Sincerely fighting for her life with the Stand when he smashed the phone. Oh my god!
Yeah.
He smashed the phone, and people were like, "Well, he was upset." And she's like, "He smashed his own phone."
I was like, that was a calculated smash his phone. It wasn't a I'm mad, chuck the phone. It was calculated.
This was one of the reasons why I had been like, why did everyone do Nick so dirty? Because that man was crazy, but he was crazy in his corner. He was not dragging other people into like his web of shit going on, but everyone else had to like get so insane that they involved other parties. I was like, Nick was just like, I'm just gonna bug a car on my own, get a recording, do all this in my corner. And then like literally everyone else just like anytime they did something crazy, they were like, I need to involve 2 other people.
See, but that's what I appreciate about Nick. If you're gonna be psychotic, do it in your own space. Like also, I was sitting there and I was like, Nick, there are so many better ways to wiretap someone. Like there is like steps to this, bud, and it's not that hard. Like it's simple. And I was like, and also when you get the information, you put it in an encrypted space so that people can't get to it.
At least password protect it.
Why do you keep listening to it? Come on.
And remove the bug.
That was mine. I was like, remove it.
He works in technology and he can't encrypt a file. Like you can't put that stuff hidden. Like what? And then also Nick just kept handing it. I do appreciate the fact that Nick did stick true to character and the fact that he just kept handing everything to everyone. He literally was just like, oh, you want to know any dirt on this, even though it's going against the person I supposedly love? Here you go.
He really had no allegiance, though. At the end of the day,
No.
And this is why I really like what Mark and Neo did with their characters, because Nick could have just been this little victim person who was like easily blown in the wind, and instead we were like, you're a little psycho. Like he added this level to Nick where it was like, no, this is weird as fuck. And I don't think other people would have been able to tap so strongly into that. You know, maybe another actor wouldn't have made us as like.
Go ahead.
Oh no, what was it?
I was just gonna say, remember in the 2000s when that cute evil bunny kept going around and it said "cute but psycho"? That was Mark this entire show.
I do appreciate it though, because he kept that kind of like bullied kid that is happy to be in the friend group finally. He also added the psychotic part of it. I wish we got more of that background of Nick's history, because I think
anyone's
would have been nice.
But I think with Nick's, I think we got that taste of it, but it was so subtle that people didn't realize it was a very important part of his character.
Yeah.
He really was. He was the kid that had the glow up and was happy to be there. He was happy to be invited, and he was just like the kid that never was invited. So even the party scene, the very small like micro expressions Mark gave of when they invited him to the party, his micro expressions in that were beyond. I was like, somebody hire this man. Give this man his own show, please. Stop giving him side characters.
So one of the things though that then made some of this stuff, I guess, frustrating for me was it's all the moments you can tell that they felt they were writing Boston as a villain. Because remember, we had the whole discussion about like, was Boston manipulating Nick because he was like promising something that he wasn't going to give? Well, at the end of the episode, he gave it. So like it literally, how they did the end of this episode almost unwrote some of the like villain stuff they had written for Boston in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, he got a boyfriend status. Like, so Boston wasn't lying. He wasn't exaggerating. He was honest when he was like, oh, maybe there could be more. Maybe there could be, because he did. He went the whole 9 yards. He got the whole thing. And so it was just, I was like,
I'm telling you.
You could have kept all of that.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I say like you could have kept all of that you'd written with Boston. Never let him date Nick as a boyfriend. Never let him do that, and everything would have remained true. And we would have been like, yeah, Boston is, you know, an asshole in this instance. But no, you made him a boyfriend. No one thought that was going to happen.
But that's how they made him ultimate bad. I'm telling you, not everyone caught what Heatherly caught. And so what they were able to do by doing that, I'm telling you, my comments were like, he's a liar. He lied. He never meant to be his boyfriend. He just lied because he's the liar that always lies. That's what I was getting in my comment section. So in their minds, he was continuing to manipulated him all the way into boyfriendness just to lie in the end because he doesn't know how to be in a monogamous relationship because he doesn't care about anyone but himself. That is what the consistent Boston rhetoric was for the people who dislike. And I was like, I don't know which comment to touch first. Like, wait, guys, what are we doing here? Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, there is a belief that he has consistently lied this entire series, and I challenge people on it, and they're like, I think they think the manipulation was all legit, and they think they won't outright say they have an issue with the fact that he doesn't want monogamy, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. And they're like, no, it's all the other stuff, and I'm like, Top.
Oh, literally, especially when it comes to the cheating.
Huh?
Especially when it comes to the cheating, because it has been outright said that Top stole Boeing, that Boeing cheated with Top. Top is the one character who has consistently like cheated or done something like that more than once.
Can we talk about the fact that why does Top and Ray need to be friends? Why did Mew need to, why does Mew need everything to fit in the box of what he thinks is right? Why was he pushing that? Because that man stole and sand. Oh my God.
And sand.
Oh, that was so awkward.
Like, Sis is not even your friend, Mew. Like, back all the way up. Like, what are you doing?
That was gross.
was
I
so
like, we
fucked
get to the end of this. I'm like, anyone looking at Mew and is like, oh, he's such a nice guy. I'm like, he made Sand kiss Top, the dude who stole his ex.
The only thing I'm happy about is that First collected another man.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I was going
Get
in
that.
the show. But by the end of this, I was like, at this point, I just want First to keep collecting them.
And
That's
I
like
was right. Everybody tried to tell me I got it wrong. And I was like, no, I think he kisses Forrest too. And I think I was right. I don't think it was the wrong translation because they said, who would you want to kiss? Or who's the best kisser? And they all picked. Wait, no,
Cow.
no, I'm wrong.
They all
No,
picked
no,
cow.
I'm wrong. Never
They all
mind.
picked
Take
cow.
it back.
They all went for cow.
Forget everything I just said. I was wrong. Continue.
We had to placate cow because they were like, we all kissed your screen partner. We gotta give it to you.
Oh, cow. Oh, maybe, yeah.
First and cow, but First and cow are always so good in whatever role they play. The thing about Ray and Sand, though, is I find it so interesting how much I dislike that relationship compared to a lot of the internet. Because for me, I think that was the one relationship that either needed a completely open, they're not together, or needed to be split by the end of this. And I think that really was one of the biggest things I disliked this episode, was how we almost took something very serious that they really played up. They played up as alcoholism as a very, very serious thing. And then suddenly it was like, oh yeah, he's going to do some things and then he'll get over it. And like, he was over it. Like, they made it seem like he was an alcoholic from the time he was a teenager until now.
Yes.
He was. Yeah. That's what he even said that in the therapy stuff.
I'm like, how did we get to this point of him magically being able to just like poof it away?
Also,
and it was
at the beginning, everybody mentioned constantly that he was always drunk. And then I noticed when he was no longer drunk, nobody mentioned anything of it. They didn't even say like, hey, you're not having a drink, or hey, how's rehab, or anything. Like, nobody mentioned a single thing about him at all, not drinking. But they constantly mentioned it when he was drinking.
Did we talk about this already? I just talked to Laura, so I'm getting confused. Did we talk about the fact that remember I might have just said this, the last episode where he wasn't drinking, or he was still drinking, but he was supposed to be on rehab? Did we have this conversation?
We had it earlier today, but not on a podcast.
On the podcast. So he was in rehab. He was but still drinking so much in that last episode, and I was like, I was saying, whoa, dude's drinking a lot. Like, this is concerning. And I got so many people lecturing me on how I don't understand. And this is how certain rehab goes. And they were tapering down. And I'm like, all right, I can buy that. But it just feels weird that they had no weight. No one seemed concerned. They were all just like, oh, this is just fine. He drank all last episode. Also, but then they turn around at the top of this episode. And the first thing Sand says is, why are you drinking so much? What? Where were you last episode, Sand? Why weren't you pressed in? And clearly it's a problem.
Why was everyone so okay with how messed up what Ray did in the last 2 episodes was? It was so wrong. Like, if Ray did that, if I were in a space and Ray did that to me, that would be it. I'd be like, you know what? You need to go heal. And if you don't, that's on you at this point, because what he did was so manipulative and so toxic. And I was like, the interesting thing, and I asked this question because somebody was like, well, I'm glad that Nick like is having self-love and self-worth. And I was like, okay, how would you feel if Sand did? How would you feel?
I said that sincerely. Yes.
Yeah. How would you feel if Sand did, and Sand and Ray didn't end up together because Sand chose self-love? But they can't do that. And I'm like, immediately people are just mad. They're like, no, but Sand and Ray are right for each other. I'm like, okay, here is our disconnect. Is it Sand, Ray are right for each other, or is it First Cow? Is it Boston, Nick aren't right for each other, or is it Neo, Mark? Like, that's the issue I've had with Only Friends, is I feel like there's a disconnect.
I think people think Sand, Ray are right. So I'm going to say that the conversations I've had around Sand, Ray, I know there's a lot of First Cow people who push that, but there are some just hardcore Sand, Ray shippers, and they believe they get very angry with me because they say that love can heal things, that is a good storyline. They get very upset, and I'm like, there's not foundation to that relationship to get them through rehab. People don't like it when I say that.
I will say I have a slight dissenting agreement to this. I agree, but at the same time, I like them together. I think they could be great together. I just feel like there's things that need to happen separately and together-ish before they're going to be like a solid couple in my head. So like how we got where we are now, I don't like it, but do I want them to be the ones together? Yes. So like that's why I was like, I want them together, and I do think they're actually kind of great together based on like what they feel like they need in relationships. However, they both really need to work on certain things on their own separately.
Yeah,
you know that song in the
rehab.
Therapy, rehab.
You know that song in the Lego movie that keeps repeating? That's what this felt like. Everything is awesome.
Yeah. As he's running through fire.
Everything is awesome.
Because like one of the things for Sand and Ray for me, which I said from the beginning, Sand and Ray to me felt like a tragedy because of Ray's addiction and because of how serious it was and how it was just impacting everything. That from the beginning, it felt like I was watching a tragedy. And then by the end, it felt like it was almost a mockery of what they could have been. Yeah. They built such an intensely beautiful relationship where I was like, wow, I want you guys together, but I want you better. I don't want you together like this. Yes. I went from like wanting Sand to run 1,000 miles away from Ray to weeping, like bawling my eyes out when Ray is just like crumbling in therapy and being like, okay, yeah, I can see this. Like, I want you guys to be better, to then being like, what the fuck is happening in that fucking pool?
Why wasn't Sand getting the therapy he needs to be in a relationship with somebody with addiction? Where was that story?
I think
nobody talks about that. Nobody.
I think there's a big disconnect in how people viewed Sand, because I see a lot of like, oh, he's a healer. To me, Sand is a pleaser. He's not a healer. I think he's a pleaser. He's somebody that he will do what needs to be done to keep the person around, even I think if it goes against the idea of healing them. I don't think he would fully be there to heal Ray if that meant losing him.
And also at the end, when they have that alcohol business, and when Ray goes, I think you should sell alcohol again, when he's like, because the whole world is going to be a temptation, it's not safe, so you should do this. I literally, I had a moment where I was like, did anyone who wrote the show, involved in the show, had they ever been a part of a recovery process?
I don't think they have.
Yeah.
Or was this something they've only heard about?
I not fraternize with the moonshiner.
So I was watching it going, all this time we thought we were dealing with people who understood recovery and addiction. And I think what happened is the writer said, I had a DUI. Thank you for Ray's based on that. Thank you for letting me tell that story. And I'm thinking getting a DUI is not the same as addiction and recovery. And I think we had someone that had a moment of concern telling the story of years worth of addiction and recovery. And that's where the ball was dropped. The other thing I wanted to say too, when you said Sand is a pleaser, I love Freddie's breakdown. To me, it's the best description of them, where good or bad, they fulfill each other's needs. Ray wants someone to take care of him. He wants to be the person that someone wants to come and be the emergency call for, and Sand so desperately needs to take care of somebody, and so they fill this void for each other. But I don't think it's healthy or good, but it explains it. And also when I forget who, Top or Boston Boeing called, it sticks with me when he called Sand a dog, and Sand said, yes, Ray is my owner. And I was like, all right then,
Sand, go to therapy, please. Sand, please go to therapy.
And I was like, oh, that's not a healer, you guys. He is just like, oh, Ray called me property all this time. I am.
I also worry about a poor man willing to give up all of his means of income in one go. I was like, I'm not going to be a bar man. I'm not going to make liquor anymore. I was like, buddy, you're not going to be in a house anymore.
Well, he also said he's going to stop working in bars.
Yeah,
I was like, sir, what are you going to be doing?
He was like, I won't be a bar singer. I won't make liquor. And I was like, dude, you're going to be on the streets.
I was like, you just took like 2 of your biggest incomes out of your life. So
now he's going to get trapped in that house with Ray. That's what
there was a few of like when Mew was talking to Top and he was like, I don't want your money. I want to do this and open a cafe and do all these things. I was like, how the fuck you opening a cafe? Like I
So
just
where the
had
fuck did that come from?
I know I had moments. I was just watching this and I was like, I feel like this might be caricatures of poor people because no broke person is sitting there with their ultra rich boyfriend who just like has all this money and is like, listen, bud, you can do like there's you and your money and I'm going to take the absolute lack of money I have and open a business. I'm like,
oh my God. Yeah. I was like, you know what? I'm sorry, but if you were a true, proper poor person that fell in love with a rich person and they said I could give you anything, I'm sorry, but I'd be taking anything. I'd be like, yes, sir.
I just
Listen,
wondered,
I
like,
have a stack of bills. Can you start there?
I was like, what level of broke are they at? Because I don't think they've been destitute. Because
and I'm sorry, but Sand, I will say right now, Sand never act like a proper poor person in this show.
He wasn't poor though.
He wasn't.
Even his mom said that he wasn't poor. His mom said that
he has savings. That's right.
Yeah,
his
mom said he has more money in savings than I do.
Yeah, but he's only got savings because he's a bootlegger.
Yeah,
it's still money.
But because he's hustling. He's hustling and he's got like 5,000 jobs and he's doing all this stuff. So like he doesn't have a savings because he's got a nice 9 to 5 and is making a good income.
No, but that's not the definition of poverty, right?
Like, that's not what that means.
So he's the poor person. He's the poor person that has a nest egg solely because of fear. He grew up poor. He had nothing.
Yep.
So that's what
extra money he makes. And I'm the same person. I'm the person that haven't, like, you grow up with nothing, have nothing, and you start to, once you have it, hide it away because God, you never know when you need it. So it's like, that's all he has to his name.
He had struck me as someone who like grew up without money and then had worked constantly, got all the jobs, done all the stuff. And then like, so you say was like had this kind of nest egg thing. So like maybe like right now, but there was just so much talk around money with this, with like the wealthy boyfriends, where it was that morally superior thing of like, I don't need your money because I'm going to do this. I'm like, listen, I have been fucking poor and I will take your fucking money. You will pay the bills.
Doesn't want it, I'll take it.
Yeah, I will. We will use my measly little income to go watch movies. Like, no, this is.
When Sand was denying money and stuff, I was like, take it. Every time the man denied the money in this show, I was like, take the money, do it.
It's like in the K dramas where they like pay them to leave the boyfriends. I'm like, take the money, stay with the boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And all those girls are like, I have my self-respect. I'm like, how poor are you if you still like, no, take the money.
My self-respect is taking the money and sticking out.
Yes. Like, what? Oh, you thought this money was is it legally binding? I don't think so. And now I've got a couple $100,000.
I don't remember what I was gonna say, but we're
gonna have a lot of people who are like, I don't have money and I don't feel that way. I wouldn't take my boyfriend's money. And I'd be like, okay.
Not me. You. Sorry.
I'll be right back. I have to go help my sister.
Okay. The top and Ray's like the just dismissal of their addiction at a point where it was less convenient to the storyline was so disrespectful to that storyline to me and ruined any goodwill they had behind it for me. The fact that Top, it's such a terrible message when Top was with Mew and he was like, oh, let me take this baggie of cocaine out. I guess I won't do that anymore. Like, if you've got baggies of cocaine on you, if your dealer's hanging out at your house, you are not at a space where the keeping Mew happy is what's going to just make it end. And it's fine if you have one storyline like that. Okay, fine. But to put two in there where love is the cure, like if you just have someone that loves you, everything's going to be fine. Like even I told Sunset about you and I Promise You the Moon, we're like, we might not be okay. You know, like the things we'll try. Like it's like a romantic romance, right? But even what specifically I told Sunset about you, they were like, you know, I guess we're gonna do our best. Like, come on, guys. There was so much realism till there wasn't.
Yeah. And if you're gonna make a heavy show like this that is supposedly real and supposed to be like this new thing in the industry, because it was it was planned out to be that. It was planned out to be this like revolutionary show for GMMTV, and then they GMMTV'd it, and I was like, okay, why are we? Because it was one of those things where I think that they almost, in a lot of ways, said your addiction and these things aren't beautiful enough for our romance, and that is really bad. That's a really bold and very bad statement to make, to in a lot of ways say it is not beautiful enough for our ending and our romance to have this continue as a storyline.
It's confusing as the Boston thing. Like, why go so hard in one direction if you didn't intend to stay there? Like, why build all this stuff up? Why give us all of this if you're just going to be like, never mind in the end?
I almost
Like,
think
what are we doing?
I almost think they took on too much and too fast.
Yeah.
Because it was 6. Well, technically the lesbians were there, but we don't need to talk about them because it makes me sad. They're hot.
I call them the token lesbians at this point.
They were hot, and I didn't get enough of them. And they were hot. And I was like, I want to see them
they
on my
weren't
screen.
there enough to feel relevant until until Choom made me incredibly mad. I was happy that they existed, but I was upset that they weren't on the show. Like, not really on the show.
They gave them lines.
And then Choom pissed me off to like no end, and I'm like, I can't be happy about the lesbians, and I want to be happy about the lesbians.
I know. I was just sitting there and I was like, why are we here? But it's like they took on 3 major storylines, and I almost wonder how quickly they expected this show to be written. Like, it makes me wonder, because it did feel almost like if you're going to take on a show that has 3 major couples running, you need to make sure that all 3 couples' stories are fleshed out and properly written. This felt like a show that could have been Sand Ray and maybe make a different show about the other couples if you decide that you can write their stories. But it almost felt like it became a Sand Ray, but we also aren't going to finish Sand Ray's story because we don't have the time to do that with all these other couples. But it also is Sand Ray. But by the way, there's these 2 other couples that, oh yeah, they're okay. And I'm like,
and I do. I mean, go ahead, Heather Lee.
I was just gonna say, I felt like New Top was supposed to be the main couple.
Yep.
But they needed to make them more interesting, so they made fucked up couples all the way around them. And then it kind of got flipped because somebody's was more interesting than the others, and then they needed it to focus back on New Top.
Yeah. Well, in Top Mute, they did a disservice in the way that they wrote them, because like Book and Forrest are great actors. It is really hard to maintain people's interest when you are given dull characters. And I say this in like the way that I'm not saying against Forrest and Book. I'm saying it against the characters, because Forrest and Book, the only thing that kept me interested in that storyline at all was their acting. And that even that was hard, because it's like, I was just like, they're there.
So I'm thinking now the same way that Boston played differently in our eyes than what we he was intended. I think Top Mew did too, specifically Mew. I think Book gave the reason that Book is Book gave Mew dimensions that maybe weren't. I keep thinking back to how we were like, that blind dinner scene was weird, and he felt like a psycho. And I remember the writer going, "What do you mean? I wrote it after a dinner that I had." And he innocently wrote that. And I was like, oh no. That was one of my first cues that I was like, uh-oh. This might not be what this feels like it is. Like, there's 2 different things happening here, because it was weird. But he meant for it to be a sweet moment that he had that he wanted to share.
To be fair, I think it could have been a sweet, slightly awkward but sweet like date if everything surrounding that date wasn't incredibly uncomfortable.
But I don't know that they knew that it was.
I don't think they did. I was like, why am I here? I want to go home. But yeah,
that entire episode was not my fun time, though. I was having struggles that entire episode. Okay.
Because you and I both did this sincerely, and it's fine if there was no extra to it. But how do we explain the oddness of the changing of the I'm not even going to say perspectives. I don't even know if that what it was supposed to be.
That thing
they,
snapped.
they were different. Those episodes were different. They were filmed differently. The music changed. The coloring would change. Like, these were clearly different episodes, different types of filming. Like, if you're going to say 90s rom-com, every single one was not 90s rom-com. So what the hell was that? They just were like, the end.
I think they did say we're getting through some characters' perspective, but even those were so hard to discern that it was like, I know that you had the theory
of show No. I'm talking about in the show addressing it.
Yeah, no, we never got an addressing for it. That's why, that's why I had so many theories about how this could have been playing out, because it jumped so much that I was like, okay, something is going on here that's weird, and they haven't explained it. I'm like,
because maybe the characters are different in these episodes too, and it's confusing. And if you give them a perspective, then at least it makes sense. You okay there?
I'm almost tempted to just in my own brain. I'm tempted to, in my own brain, be like, in the future, this is what happens. That is the reason for this show. And that's why it is the way it is. Just so my brain can like.
I wonder now, because they introduced perspectives in the book. And I'm like, the book was written after the show. Did they hear us all saying that and go, oh, yes,
I'm sorry, but if they roll up season 2 and it is Nick making an animation, I'm going to actually email them. I'm going to email them and be like, I want some credit for this. I would like some writing credit for this, because I've seen the spoilers for the book. And if there's, because I've been told, and this is just like random, not full spoilers, but I've been told that based off of the book 1 and 2, we probably won't be getting a season 2. Because they say that the book 1 and 2 wrap up with what we've seen in season 1.
Well, they could just write it after again. Why wouldn't they just do that?
The show came before the book.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying
the show.
That's why I'm saying if Nikki Boy disappears and comes back as a top tier animator, I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna be like, hey, at least send me a box set. Like, that's all I ask. Just send me a box set and I'll be happy.
I'd ask for more. Listen, I will say this. If they roll out a season 2, they better fucking have Neo and Mark in it, because they were phenomenal.
They won't.
Guys,
I don't know. They still included Boston's character in that final scene.
GMMTV,
they did?
Yeah, by having him send the picture.
GMMTV, if you're listening and you want to do a season 2 and you want people to really love it, hire me, pick me, choose me. I would have
I was like in the car and I was like, I could come up with a better way to end Boston and Nick, like right now off the top of my head, and still have them separated at the end of this show and still have it be heartbreaking than what they did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So sorry, writers and directors, but I will pick this bone. Yes.
Yeah.
Just give me a season 2 and I'll make Mick's worth more than his 5 seconds they gave him, because that man is such a good actor and they gave him literally a pan up of his beautiful self. I was like, I get it. He's beautiful. We need to pan up on him. But also, he's such a damn good actor. And you literally gave him 5 seconds.
But I will also say, I would make the twist that he was actually interested in Tom, because that would be hilarious.
I wouldn't anyone but Mew. I was like, even this is like tired. The fact that he was interested in Mew, I was like, ugh.
Okay. And the only thing I wasn't tired with by the end, and even Ray Sand, I was tired because of how they ended it, and not Ray Sand. Like Ray Sand, I think had so much potential, and it was how they ended it that made me tired of it, because I was like, eh. And that's why I think maybe we won't get a season 2, is the wrap up of it, because we have that mix moment where obviously it looks like he's hitting on Mew. But are they really going to play that out again? Are we really going to have another somebody goes after Mew and Top's mad about it? Like that's what we're going into.
I mean, again, which he is someone of the 90s, I know the shows he watched. He watched The L Word. He watched Queer as Folk. Sincerely, they can keep a storyline going. They can go round and round.
But if you're going to Grey's Anatomy this, make it Grey's Anatomy level. Start killing people.
But it's not Grey's Anatomy. It is a very niche thing. It is very niche, and you can stretch it. And that is his zone. He has made that very clear that these are his referential points. Anything 90s. So think about Dawson's Creek, all those serial shows in the 90s. You can do it.
So then you know what? Season 2, bring me back Neo, Boston, and Nick. No, you know what? I don't even need. This is what was so frustrating. It hurt. It genuinely hurt seeing the route. Like, it was exhausting watching Ray and Sand because we were like, you guys had so much, and this is what we're being left with. And then Top and Mew, I was just like, whatever. I'm just so fucking done with you two. Like, I don't even care.
Like, just move in and get over it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you are bringing nothing to the table right now. Nothing.
They said the real Top Mew moved to America and we're happily married for 13 years. Go do it. Do it. Please.
But then like Boston and Nick, that actually hurt. Where I was so sad watching what happened between them. What was sad. And I was like, okay, if I was going to be sad about these two, there are so many ways to have them break your heart without Boston just like disregarding everything we know about him as a fucking person, even before he grew as a person. I was like, even before he grew as a person, he's just been so upfront that I was like, it was like you just had to. They pulled a fucking cutie pie naughty babe moment. You have to forget everything you know about this person. Well, you guys want the IT crowd?
Let me, Adam. I'll make a better sad ending for you.
I was going to say I was a little unfiltered on my reaction video. And at some point, I just was like over everything. And when Sand and Ray people are going to hate me. When they were dancing, I was like, I literally looked in the camera and I went, I'm so tired. When will they stop?
I thought that same thing. I was like, this isn't even sweet to me. Like, I don't even find this cute or sweet. Like, this is just irritating. And then when fucking Nick just walks off, I'm like, you're on the side of the road. Okay, this is what killed me. They pull over to watch fireworks. We don't fucking know where, but it looks like they pulled off on the side of the highway or something, right? To watch these fireworks. And then they had a moment where they're like, where's Nick? And I was like, you're on the side of the fucking road. How did you lose Nick? And then Boston's like, I'll go find him. And he hops in his car. I was like, and he's on the side of the road? Just sitting on the side of the road. He goes and finds this dude and he's still, okay, granted, I've never been to Bangkok, so I don't know where they were. But I was like, why is this man just taking off in the middle of the night on New Year's Eve? Never mind. He's not a woman. This is some thoughts.
I can say from seeing the streets of Bangkok, that is slightly reasonable.
I was like, I don't know. But literally the whole point, I was like, it's just walking along the side of the highway. This was just one of the
female fear coming out. That was what that was.
Yeah, that was. I had that full moment where I was like, he's a man. This is not
I was watching Sand Ray dance and I was like, y'all need to tango your way into the car, drive to the rehab facility, drop him and leave him there. Because at this point
I pulled it. I didn't realize because I had pulled this up just in case we needed to like look for different things in the series. And I literally have it freeze framed on your rehab session isn't over yet, as they're all staring at the glass in the middle of the three of them in the pool. It's like, yeah, right, Ray, right.
And you know what? What?
Oh, good.
Someone left a comment on my video and they were like, Boston and Ray need to date because apparently Boston like doesn't want to be in a monogamous relationship and Ray really wants a threesome.
Oh my God. Wait, let me see if I can find what Mirko sent me because Mirko sent me something that I laughed so hard at that I actually had to use my inhaler. Let me see if I can find it.
While you're looking, I saw one of Shannon's videos where she was saying, you don't know kissing well because he was like, I feel like I'm second best. Ray said that. And the kiss with I almost said Diego. What's up, Diego? What is his name? Boeing. The kiss with Boeing was like, and then the kiss with Ray was like, and then I was like, I'm second best. It was like, what?
I was like, you did not see the same kissing I saw because What?
Okay.
What?
You
I
guys
found-
like went to town weird style with you, Ray and Bowie, where I was just like, y'all need to calm down.
It was literally, I was like, I had a moment where I was about to be like, are you drunk, Ray? Because like literally Boeing and Sand could not even figure out the rhythm. And that was like, I thought a point they were making that Sand didn't have rhythm with other people. They couldn't find their rhythm. Sand and Ray immediately had rhythm, but Ray, who's drinking, is like, oh, I'm a second tier, so I'm gonna go for Boeing and like, I don't know, suck that man's face off. Like that was such an intense kiss.
Can I say
But
that
Sand-
made me mad because that was like a serious trigger for Sand
Yes.
watching Boeing get
Yes.
taken by the person he was
Yes.
with again. I was like,
Literally.
what?
And it wasn't.
Why
But
would
that's the
you think
thing.
that would be the good plan?
It's even worse this time because he's not being taken by somebody that Sand doesn't know. He's being taken by the guy Sand is taken by. What? Okay, I found what Mirko said.
What was it?
Do not take a sip, you will choke. Mirko said, and I quote, "The power of heteronormative monogamous love. It cures PTSD and alcoholism." You're not wrong, but also
Oh my God.
but that's literally what we got. It was like the heteronormative monogamous love. Like, God forbid anybody want to be poly in this household.
Oh my God. I like literally
I've been saying it
by
from
the end of
day
this show, I was like, I never want to be in a relationship out of fucking spite to the writers because like,
Yeah, that'll teach him.
Yeah.
That'll teach him.
I'm gonna find myself a Ray, and I'm gonna give Ray a threesome. Because at this point, he's
I
been baked.
consistently that man has been trying to get a threesome. And then I even said, so I had said at the last episode, I was like, Boeing is not, I was like, okay, this is not a good mix up because like Ray can take Boeing. Ray is crazy enough that he can actually take Boeing. And then they were like, look how crazy Ray is. I was like, yeah, that was really fucking insane. Also, that was
also tamer than I thought
Boeing.
he was gonna do.
I was like, he could have been a lot crazier in a way that actually like shut Boeing down and not like, I don't know, revved the man up. Like, what the fuck was going on?
He took a fire and poured gasoline on it. I was like, dude, at least you're in a pool.
And then he made Sand apologize for it. He literally was like, yeah,
Oh
Boeing, why don't you come to our place? Let's go
Pissed
swim in
me
a pool. And then he was like, Sand, why don't you get in the pool naked? Sand, why don't you do this? Sand, why don't you kiss your ex? Sand, why don't you kiss me? Sand, why don't I kiss your ex?
Turned Boeing down. Sand had literally said, I don't want you anywhere. And Ray was like, come to my place. I was like, what? Ugh. He exhausts me. Send him to rehab. Leave him there for a few months, please.
And then the Boeing stuff was weird too, because he was like, you just wanted him second because Top wouldn't take you. And that was like the thing that fixed it.
Also, at no point did he make it look like he wanted Top. He made it look like he wanted Top to weep. Okay. At no point did I think like, oh, Boeing wants to keep Top. I thought, oh, Boeing wants to hurt Top and cause him pain.
I thought he
wanna
was
know what
willing to
happened.
keep Top at the beginning, but then when he started like playing with Mew, I was like, oh, he just wants him to either hurt or be with him. Like
I want to know
either
what
or,
happened
he would have been
to Top
satisfied.
and Boeing. Because we know that Boeing went to Mew and said, Top only stays with people for 3 months max. What did Top do to Boeing that made him so
They don't like to give backgrounds on people. Remember?
Let's be honest. Top did something to those men. He did something to those men. They were crazy.
Next. And we're supposed to be happy about it.
And he's got a track record. Top has a track record of men that are insane after being with him.
Listen, there's a lot of things around Top. His influence on this community is very annoying. I will say this again. People start dressing like him. People start going fucking insane after they date him, like just absolutely insane. So I'm like, maybe the problem is Top. Okay, maybe if we're consistently seeing crazy shit happen after people are involved with Top, maybe Top's the problem.
Shannon, I have an obscure. So we know that Top likes the fluffy stuff. Hear me out. He gets them into the fluffy stuff, feeds them to his dealer, makes money off it, and that's why Top is rich. It's not his daddy's money. He's the intro. And that's why they're crazy. It's because they're laced on fluffy stuff.
I just did. Now I'm even more angry about the no Boston backstory because they decidedly made him different when he was with Top. He was softer, or maybe they didn't. Maybe Neo just brought a full character to the table that wasn't written.
Top did something to Boston.
Listen,
I want to know what he did to that man.
There was a few things that were out of character for Boston, for how Boston was just written as a person. There were a few things that were out of character. One, Boston just like wanting to hook up and all the stuff. Okay, that was its own thing. But he literally always focused on Mew and Ray, and he only got focused back on Top once Mew was interested in Top. And I'm like, and so denying a backstory, I was like, that was out of character. Everything Boston did around Mew, Ray, and Top was out of character because he even warned Sand about Ray's feelings for Mew. He did things that don't make sense if he's just an asshole.
Well, they said he's someone. I saw him write it after that, Shannon. He said there's some people that just like to watch the world burn. And they said that's what Boston was doing in those moments.
That wasn't watching the world burn.
But the thing about Boston, and when he brings Mew to Top and all that, I think Boston was always point eyes on Top. And the reason I say that is because every time that Boston slept with someone, they came to him. They sought out him to sleep with.
Yes.
Him. With Top, Boston was seeking out Top.
Not the first time?
Yeah. He looked like a beginner the first time.
Yeah.
I still stand by the fact that Top took his virginity.
Yes, I'm the same way. I stand by the fact that I think Top turned Boston into a version of him. I think he 100%. Was Boston first. And Boston
Top is the real villain.
Yes. That man.
Would have been a great story. Eyes. Do it. It was right there.
That's the story in my head.
It's right there. He was so small and so tender when he was with Top, and Top was running the show. And remember, with Top, and I don't want to get into positions because I don't think that we should, but it is noted his position was different with Top than with anyone else.
Yes, but that's also an interesting way they used sex as a plot tool, because that's something I liked about this show is that they use sex as a plot tool because you see it with Boston. Boston, it's always fast and hard and quick. And then when he finally when he finally admitted he loved Nick, it was slow and he cared about him. And I was like, but that's an important part of Boston because sex is an important part of Boston as a character.
Yep.
Why have that character development if he's just bad? What was the point? Why did we do that?
We saw him break all of his original escapades and rules and become tender and become loving, and then all of a sudden they're like, nah, he's just a dick. I was like, what
and what's worse is I don't think they realized, but we'd been seeing that from the beginning with Nick. Nick was constantly special. Nick was constantly making Boston change the way he did things and change himself and do all this stuff. But all anyone focused on was Nick changing. And they were like, oh, Nick is being manipulated by Boston. He's changing this way. I was like, do you guys not see that Nick is actively changing Boston? Boston is going against the stuff he's always held. He's doing all these out of character things. And it's all because of Nick. And then so when we get to this end point and we see how much growth Nick brought to Boston, and we're like, wow, this is amazing. This is phenomenal, blah, blah. And then they were like, psych. And I was like, we can't psych that. We just watched the whole season of this happen.
He's like, I'm going to go get you a drink. Jokes.
I could stay away from Negronis.
I forget who it was, but there was someone who was trying to apply color theory to this, which I just think I'm like, is anything that depth really there? But but they were trying to apply color theory to this, and they were talking about in the lemonade phase of Mew, he was wearing really dark clothes, and when there was dark clothes and when there was white and all of this other stuff. And it just hit me because I think it was Laura who was like, or I forget who, it might have been one of you guys that was like, why was Mew still dressing like Ray at the end? He was out of his lemonade era, but he was still dressing like Ray. I also noticed they were all in dark clothes, and Boston was in white.
Yep.
In the end. And I'm like,
he was
do you have a message? Do you know what that looked like color-wise?
I don't think so. And I think it's interesting that we had Boston come in and be the only person to have to apologize, and none of these characters had any self-introspection. Like they expect us to like root for these characters and not Boston, when none of these characters have really done any self-growth within this friend group other than him. And he was forced. They were like, sit down and apologize. And I was like, yo, all of you need to sit down and start writing letters, because Jesus.
No, actually, this is actually something that really irritated me with Boston the Friend. So someone on Twitter, they responded to one of my things because I had said, like, wanting a monogamous relationship is completely valid, but also not wanting a monogamous relationship is also valid. But literally only one of those was villainized this whole show. And it was like not wanting monogamy was just like pointed out to be like this horrible thing. And then someone responded and they were like, yeah, they were like, it was so villainized. They made this look so awful that this man was even had a like crime committed against him, and it was and his lifestyle was used to justify that crime happening, and no one came forward and remedied what happened there. It was just shown as a this is what you get when you're like this.
I do wonder though if the reason that all of us, well, maybe not just like us, but like the people that are pointing it out are also the same people that notice that that's the same thing that's used against women in SA and grape things.
Yeah.
I was about to say something. Stop myself.
And that's the same wording that always gets used.
Yep. This was actually
wearing.
Because this was one of the things I had pointed out in the scene with Ray and Mew at Ray's home was I was like, this is a situation. And people even said like Mew didn't have to go home with Ray. And I was like, there's so much of that language around stuff like this in the show. And I had tried to point out, I was like, that was a dangerous situation. He had no way out. He had no this other stuff. And no one can see those things, even when you like apply it to Boston, where I was like, what happened to him was so dangerous. Like literally, we got to the end of this show. They had threatened to out this man to the world, destroy his father's political career, ruin his relationship with his father. That's still hanging over him, by the way. That's still like there. And then he had someone accuse him of rape, coercion, and all this other stuff. It had taken literally his graduation. This is what was taken away from this man. He could not graduate. He lost all of his friends. He all these things happened. And I was like, and then people are like, well, now he's learned. I was like, what?
I hope that Boston goes to America and finds a nice, lovely poly relationship and a great queer community to be a part of that like support and love him. Because I think the thing that irritated me was they villainized sexual liberation. And that was one of the, even from the beginning, not even just monogamy versus polygamous relationships, they villainized the idea of being open to just sleeping around, which isn't a bad thing.
Right.
Why is that a bad thing? If you want to sleep around, you can sleep around. Now, obviously, don't sleep around if you are in a committed monogamous relationship, but if you're not committed, it's still not a bad thing. It's like, I don't know why we felt the need to villainize that.
And every time I was like, because I was like, no, there's a lot of things that Boston has done that's really shitty. There's like a lot of things that we can call him out for, but all anyone would call him out for was specifically him sleeping around. I'm like, that's not the shitty thing he did. Like he did these other things. These things right here, these are legitimately horrible things that he did. And that was never what he was being called out for.
Yeah. It's like none of these people in this show are good. Let's be honest. Yeah. None of them are good people. But there's some
that
things
the creators agree.
It's up to interpretation. That is part of art interpretation.
Yes. I stick to my guns on the fact that I dislike all of them.
Same.
And I was saying this was a testament to Neo and Mark's acting, that by the end I was like, whoa, I didn't want you guys near each other. I didn't want this to be an end thing. And now I'm like, if you're together, I'll be happy. If you're not, I'll be okay. Like you guys have really made these characters grow on me. And then they were like, haha, no.
The only thing we got a good ending for in that sense was Nick. I really do love
do like Nick.
finale of Nick.
So do I.
I was going to say, even Nick's conversation with Sand around everything with Boston, if they were in that type of relationship, like non-monogamous relationship, and Sand's like, you like deserve better. You deserve someone who's going to love you right. I'm like, whoa. Boston loved this man and was doing these things for him. They agreed to this relationship. What the conversation should have been was, hey, Nick, this doesn't seem like the right relationship for you. It doesn't seem like this is something you can do well with.
The question there is, how did he describe it to Sand? Because did he tell Sand that this was a committed monogamous relationship, or did he not? And we don't know that. Like, we don't know the background.
He felt cheated on when Boston was with Top, and that was confusing to me. But a lot of people read it that way, and that was confusing to me. And as you always say, Shannon, it was why did it have to be Top? No, wait, didn't you say that? Why did it have to be Boston? No, I'm getting confused.
I said at the end of every episode and at the end of the show, it's always Boston.
No, Mew in the heat of that moment said, why did it have to be Boston?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why'd it have to be Boston? I'm telling you, we were deprived when they were like, oh, they don't need a backstory. I was like, no, there was something weird going on there.
Come on. It would have been so good.
Needed a backstory.
Why were
that
they
one
friends?
at minimum needed a backstory. I could have not done a backstory with Boeing. I can deal with not having a backstory with Top, I guess. I don't know. But I needed at minimum a backstory on why Boston had that information about Mew and Ray in the first place. Because that was the
standing behind a tree with a camera going, I was gonna give it to you someday if you got
that was
together.
a catalyst to this entire thing. The entire thing was based off of this one time. So like if that didn't mean anything, why was it there in the first place? And why do I get no background?
Why did you hold on to it for 2 years? That's psycho.
Yeah. And I really needed the breakdown of what the hell actually happened between Top and Boeing and Sand. I needed Boeing's backstory because and honestly, I need this backstory of anybody Top touched, because at this point, what did that man do?
What did he do?
But I was just thinking, like, even because I'm looking at so much of Boston that people were like, this made him a horrible person. Him seeing Ray with Sand, even that, I was like, that wasn't a horrible person move to just call Ray out for his behavior with Sand. How he did it, where he was like, oh, in this moment where we're all high and drunk and all this kind of stuff. But I'm like, but Ray did the exact same thing and started a freaking fight. And everyone was like, oh, but he was misunderstood. I'm like, well, Boston did that. Boston was helping Stand out. And like, it's just every single time. I don't think
Boston was helping Stand out. I know that's how you tell it,
Shannon. No, I'm saying it. No, I'm saying, what was Ray helping me? No, Ray was being selfish in that moment too. So that's like my whole thing with this, is that when it's a different character who's not Boston, everyone is like, oh, well, there's this reason for it. There's this reason for it. And I'm like, or maybe that person was also just being a dick, but you won't see it that way because they're not. So that was the thing for me. Boston had so many similarities with the other characters, did so many of the same things as the other characters, but everything he did was written as just bad. And I don't think we were given a good enough reason for it.
I will say, I think they did change people up. And honestly, I have an obscure theory going that I think Sand had some rewrites and changes to his character as we went, because there was a lot of things that were said that didn't make sense in the end to me. So first, when he was interviewing, said everything that came up about Sand being good, he was like, yeah, for now.
Oh, yeah.
And then he proceeded to say, if Sand does something really bad, forgive him.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
what was the really bad thing?
I feel
was it the bone stomping?
No,
this was late.
It was after all of this happened that he was.
Was it the money?
I thought it was the money.
I thought it was.
Oh, but if it's that, that's not. I don't think. I honestly think they maybe readjusted Sand to be a little better than he was, because I don't know. I'm gonna those two.
I'm gonna inject some of First into this and how he calls Cal naughty all the time, and he gets upset when Cal uses curse words. Like, I don't know. Maybe First idea of really bad is different. I don't know.
I
or that's part of a persona. I don't know.
There's something about Sand that didn't feel fully fleshed out, almost as if they like knew people were into it and stopped it from going the way it could have.
I felt that way with a few. It felt like changes were made later on because they didn't want the audience. Yeah, it felt like changes took a certain way. You know, like Sand was supposed to be this really good person, but then we were all like, damn, you all kind of suck. And like,
yeah, because it's one of those things like, how would the fans have reacted from what we've seen, like all of us from what we watched? How would the fans have reacted if Sand ended up actually having some really bad things? I don't know if it would have been one of those, oh yeah, they all suck. I think it would have been outrage. I think it would have been, that's not Sand. That's not his character.
Yeah.
You know what's funny?
Yes.
I'm looking back at like a lot of the things with the characters. I'm like, wait, hold on. What if Sand's horrible thing actually was supposed to be that he took money from the dad and lied to Ray to get him into rehab and like did all this manipulative stuff? That was supposed to be the really bad thing. But we were so desensitized to bad things at this point. We're just like, that's so chill.
I think that's what it was supposed to be. He said it right before that episode.
We're like, dude.
The other thing too, I think someone got it wrong. They said that Cal was supposed to have a scene that rivaled Moonlight Chicken. I think that was the rehab scene.
I think
but someone said it was supposed to come in the last episode.
No, they were claiming first said it was the last episode, but I don't think he ever did. I think he said it's in the latest. I think it's the Moonlight. I think it's the scene in episode 10, the therapy, because that one to me did absolutely.
God, that one destroyed me.
That one destroyed me.
Again, why have that scene? Why have Ray go through all this?
And then episode 11.
And then he'd be
and then hand him a drink in episode 11.
I'm sorry. If you could have seen the rage in my existence when episode 11 ended and I went to my group chat and I was like, because everybody knows I got very deeply into this show from like analyzing to everything. I enjoyed it and I still enjoyed it even up to the anger that 11 and 12 gave me. But why end 10 like that? And then give us episode 11 the way you gave us episode 11. We had something beautiful that needed to brew and it needed to sit and fester and have moments to like breathe and learn and heal. And you gave me an inhaler on steroids. You were like, take a breath. Actually, take 30. Like, no.
Yeah, that's how I really do. I look at this, I'm like, a lot was set up for these last two episodes to be really good. I feel like they did Boston and Nick really well in episode 11, screwed everything up in episode 12, and then they messed up. I thought they did Top and Mew really good in episode 11, and then Sand and Ray just went downhill episode 11 to episode 12, and then Top and Mew went back to being absolutely insufferable in episode 12.
Yeah.
So I will say people will disagree with your Top Mew assertion because I saw quite a few people who felt like, so think about the tub conversation of them having this conversation. What works for you? What works for me? Them figuring out, okay, if we're going to do this thing and we're going to live together, then we both have to compromise to find out how to meet each other where we're at and have this life together. So
you should have that conversation before you move in, but
I will say this also. Mew has a track history of saying shit and then backpedaling. So he can say whatever the fuck he wants there.
It lit on fire and they were together. And they were together in the fire. It was everything came together. But this is why I kept screaming. And I know I had so many people already be like, you just wanted a sad ending. This is why I kept screaming, give me an open ending. Because that was the only way I saw feasible to do it in 2 episodes. I didn't see the circle coming around in 2 episodes. Not with how much they were interjecting, not with Boeing still being an issue rolling around in the stratosphere.
I mean, they should have introduced him way earlier than they did.
Boeing had not landed yet. And they were like, oh, Boeing's still out here flying around. Let's keep going. Oh, and we have 2 episodes to finish this. And then all of a sudden the man hit turbulence and tanked into the ocean. I was like, what are we doing?
Like, Boeing and Pop did absolutely insane things together in episode 11, where I was like, Mew, run for the fucking hills. This is the biggest red flag. It's not even a red flag. This is the biggest stay the fuck away from top that I've ever seen. When his ex says, oh, we have a guest, and cooks you breakfast in your ex-boyfriend's home, and then you find out that your ex-boyfriend didn't want to use a sleeping pill, so he called his ex over because apparently he's only got 2 fucking contacts in his phone, his drug dealer and his ex-boyfriend. And then you find out that ex-boyfriend doesn't even like him. He was just sticking around to find a way to bring him down. It was so fucking insane. And everyone's like, Top's really grown as a person.
His pain. He's not scared of fire anymore. He's changed. But no, I'm just like
miracle.
I keep thinking the greatest way that this could have ended. You know those like montage scenes where like How to Save a Life by the Fray is playing in the background, and you've got like, okay, hear me out. You've got Sand throwing Ray at the rehab corner and being like, "Bye, buddy. Take your like weekend pack. Go on your way. Pick you up in a month or so." And then Sand going off to continue his illegal dealings because he's poor and needs money. And then you've got Top and Mew kind of still hashing it out. I'd like to see them fight in the kitchen a little bit, have some of those, custom, we just moved in together brawls. And then we have to have Boeing. I don't know what Boeing will be doing. Honestly, washed up on a street somewhere. It's okay. That's his vibe. And then we could have Boston getting on his plane to America with his little camera sitting there like scrolling through all of his photos of all of his friends that hate him. And then we could have Nick going off into his self-healing and Dan being like, I still love you. And Nick being like, this is not the time.
You know what would have been really great is if Nick, as he's going off to do his own thing, it turns out he bugged Boston's phone.
And you just hear, oh my God, he bugged him. And you just see him like watching the screen mirror of Boston scrolling through his phone.
How to save a life.
Oh my God. Wait, no, he puts a tracker on his phone and you just see the map showing New York City. And like Nick sitting there looking at the map being like, I got you.
Oh my God.
They really did make that man so crazy. And then they were like, but no one's as crazy as Boston. I was like, no.
Oh man, the way I had to convince people he was listening to it. I said,
I know you were fighting for your life.
Guys, he was listening to it, and they're like, no, I think it was this, and I think it was that. And then they cut to next episode, and he's like, listening to it.
You know what?
Cleaning the house.
And then he's like, want to hear Sand? Here you go,
when he played it for Sand, I was like, dude, I'm gonna need some like character growth in the sense of you getting better at bugging people. Like that is all I need from this show is seeing Nick learn how to properly bug guys.
You know what's funny is that Nick was like, this is where I'm saying it was inconsistent with the story they've done and everything, is when Nick sees Boston with Boeing, he's like, I thought I'd be okay with this, but now that I've seen it, I know that I'm not okay with it. It's like, what do you mean now that you've seen it? You fucking bugged it last time and watched it. This is like the second, third, fourth fucking time.
Have the boyfriend title though the last time.
Yeah, I didn't have the
I will say, and I need to say this about the bug because I fought for my life about that. I literally, before the episode where they picked it up, I was like, next episode, I'm telling you right now, they're gonna fight it out, and Boston's gonna go out to his car and sneak around and grab the bug from under the chair. And everybody in my comment section was like, Nick's not stupid enough to leave the bug in the car. And I was like,
I knew it was so bad.
Yeah, in our podcast, I had said, I hope he had taken it out, but they're like, no. I was like, I don't think he's smart enough, but I really do hope that he took it out.
People were brawling. They were duking it out in my comments. They're like, what do you mean he left it in the car? He didn't leave it in the car. And I was like, just watch.
The man, okay, and this was like Nick, if he had just removed that, he had the best out because, and I still sit with this. I'm like, it was public. The cars did not have tinted windows. Anyone could have seen what happened and told like me. Like that did not have to get back to Nick, but no.
But it was such a loss on his end to think that just going in with the bug was okay and standing there and not pulling out his phone and recording. Because if you're going to go with evidence, you can't just go with audio evidence. Anybody could doctor audio, pull out the camera.
what
Oh.
he sounds like in sex, so it doesn't matter.
Mew hearing it and immediately going, "Is that Boston and Top?" And I was like, "Sir, please, I can't." What the amount of backstory that was needed?
It was
Huh?
Ray.
Oh, that was Ray. That was Ray.
Yeah.
I'm like, the amount of backstory that was needed to explain why you knew. Like, just let us know that you hooked up with both of them. Okay, that's all we need to know. But no, we're not going to get an explanation for that either.
Ray and Boston were close enough that Boston told him everything about his sexploitations. He knew about the red room. Like, so
Had
much
he
was
heard him?
these two people who clearly don't like each other. So I don't understand. Were you friends? Were you not friends? When did this happen? Why are all of you hanging out? Why are you friends?
The only form of friendship we saw at all was between Mew and Ray during that scene when they're like sitting there and being like, yeah, no, we both used each other. I think that was the only actual like any friendship we got out of that group.
Yeah.
Choom. They brought out some at the end just to make Mew feel better.
Put Choom back in her non-existent corner, Shannon. I am sorry. I love the actors. They're hot as hell, but put them back in their corner. Leave them in the pool with their margaritas.
They did us so dirty with them. I was so excited, and I was like,
Noni is I'm so mad.
This was like, I just reached a point where I was like, why are they here? They're just here to piss me off. They're literally just here so that we can have this false allegation against Boston. And then literally this part made me laugh is when April and Choom are there, and April's like, look at you. You got your friends to reconcile and be great. And now everyone's happy. And then Mew looks at Boston and is like, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I was
know what? In this instance, I was the donkey with the carrot being dangled in front of my face. I was like, I will chase it and I will hope that I catch it. And then it's like they picked it up and threw it in a lake. And I was like, okay.
No.
If I don't get a GL, the last thing I will say is if I don't get a GL by the end of this year or early next year, that is either 23.5 for Pluto, I'm going to
23.5 is next year.
They've already said that? Or...
Yes, they did.
Did they say it's going to happen? Are they confirming it's happening at least?
Yes, early next year.
They're filming.
Yeah.
Fine.
I thought they did some clever promotion that everybody missed. So you know that the viral thing that's going on where the song plays and you pull somebody in, and they had several different characters dressed like them, dressed up as their character. Several different channels did it, and there was the one character, and she's standing there, and then she looks around, and she's got no one to pull in, and I'm like, I want to know more about this character.
Yeah,
why do you have no one to pull in. Like I was like, this is good stuff. This is good marketing.
It was. Unfortunately for them, Pete and Fourth did the trend next, and then that was hysterical.
It was so cute. It was so endearing.
Cheer Fort up though.
Fort was like, "What are we doing this?"
I got so excited when he realized.
Like, hooray!
I love that we know that Pete literally said nothing, crossed his eyes, and then just took off running across this bathroom. Like that is the funniest thing.
And the fact that Fort was like, okay.
All right. Well, I guess we should wrap up since we're at an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's time, guys.
Only friends.
We did it.
There's not even any celebration left. It's just exhaustion. We're all just like, we survived.
That's a lot of
made it through.
Work we put in.
God.
You know,
I'm telling you, Pluto the series comes out, it's over for everybody. That's my that's the next thing.
Yep.
I think mine will be the red peafowl.
That looks so good.
I haven't watched it. It's a 7-minute trailer, and I don't know if I have the mentality to do it.
It's so good.
Oh, it's so good. It's really good, sincerely. The quality, I'm impressed. I was like, whoa.
We know
also, I watched Opa, My Dear, that was good. The first episode.
Oh,
My Dear Gangster Opa. The quality.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. The gaming sequence? Did you watch it?
No.
I was like, oh, look at you guys. Look at you all legit and stuff.
I was told to take 180-degree longitude so that I can make up for the Only Friends ending.
Oh,
I need to watch.
yeah, that's fair.
a lot.
That's fair.
rude.
I concur.
Knowing me.
I watched it. I concur. You should. It will make up for this.
That will be my move.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take us in more directions. We're done, guys.
Oh,
Do you guys have an outro?
No.
no.
We do this. We go, bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you sincerely for coming.
You expect too much, sincerely. Bye, guys.
Hey,
That's all we got, sincerely. Yay, bye.
I can't wait. Bye.
Bye.
Your orb is pulsing.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
My orb is wet.
God. Okay. No.
On the spots where this is just audio, that's gonna be weird as hell.
Your orb.
I can't breathe.
Oh, God.